purpose of our session today is every single team, specifically within Academy, has to submit a video presentation based on your final report that you should have submitted by yesterday. So it will basically be covering all your key ideas and key findings that you explored and developed throughout the semester. So we will go over the structure of it, some things to keep in mind, and how to make it the best possible. So without further ado, let us get started. Lisa, I'll hand it over to you.
Okay, hi guys. So this will be for the slides, what to do for making them, how to design them, the fun stuff, the nicer things. So firstly off, we have Canva. Canva is what even we're using for this presentation. I think most groups do tend to use Canva. So it technically just has a lot of templates that you can use for either based on what you want your design to sound like. So either you have a theme in mind, you have a color in mind, whatever you have in mind can be made in a template form, or you can just make it blank and then add in your own elements. So Canva has a design part, an elements part, a side for texts, and you can also upload. So you can easily transfer your report into slides. Next we have, okay, I'm going to go diagonally, so PowerPoint. I feel like this is one everyone knows, it comes installed on most laptops, if not all. So PowerPoint has a similar basis to Canva, except for it's offline. So PowerPoint is an offline app, so you would have to upload it to share it anywhere. It has less designs and templates and slide options, but it is good for when you have to work with no Wi-Fi or data or anything of the sort. Beautiful AI and Prezi are both also online versions. So they're both cloud-based graphic design presentation formats. So for Beautiful AI, you're allowed to create presentations using smart templates. So it helps you to easily share between your teams what you're presenting, and it's consistent with branding, colors, font, and other things that they have within their library of presentation. English has lost me. Presentation work. And then for Prezi, Prezi is easily, navigatable. So within your presentation, you'd easily be able to go from slide to slide. You're able to add in media posts or share results of infographics or dashboards. So Prezi allows you to more interactively add in elements of your project, an infographic that you've created can easily be added into Prezi, and the site will still look all the same format. Yes, next slide, please. Okay, this is for recording. So first off, we have Zoom, a fan favorite. Zoom allows you guys, or the team, to be on a call of you together, and then you can share the slides and all of you will get to discuss your slides and your part, and you're easily able to record it, and then it just saves onto your laptop. So Zoom would allow you to all do it, and only problem with Zoom is that it gives you a time frame if you're not paying for it. So I believe it's 40 minutes, and then it tells you that's a wrap, that's the end of that. But otherwise, it's very good for recording as a group or otherwise. Canva has a video presentation record section. So I'm not sure whether it would show your faces, but it would record you voice-wise and your slides. So it would be easier for maybe showing your slides without having any footage or slides losing their graphic format. Yes, then you can all just do, but also Canva is group-wise. And you could all just do individual videos. So each of you take your own section, your own parts of the slides, and just video yourself recording it. You record yourself doing your own section of the slides, and then you all come together and put it together. So that segues very nicely into the next part of to record. So to edit. So firstly, you have InShot, which is an editing app for videos and photos. So it's a video maker that comes embedded with music that you can easily add music into your slides as a background thing. And then you can also have video collage. So with individual videos, you can nicely put them together and combine them. Then there's also slow down, reverse, video motion, all the stuff that you need to combine your video. And it also would help with editing the Zoom or the Canva videos. iMovie is an Apple-based app. So those of you who do not have Apple-based products, I'm very sorry. but this is an Apple-based app. So if you hadn't have a team member who loves iMovie and they swear by it, this is the one. It does the editing for you. You just upload it onto iMovie and you edit it. So you can take out slides, you can rearrange them, you can add in music, but that's of your own. It doesn't come embedded in the app. And so that's what that does. Then CapCut is from the same line as TikTok. So this works really well with individual videos. So you easily add in the videos to CapCut, and then it has like the motion sensing, the zooming out and zooming in, and you're able to add in graphics, designs, and elements, and all your sound will come in together well. Yeah. I'm going to hand over.
Okay, so hello, my name is Malaika Khan, and today we're going to be talking about the business plan and how to go about your video. So firstly, you have to know your content really well. Do not follow a script, that's not recommended. Know your content and just go with the flow, let it be natural. So for your video, you need to start off by introducing your team, and then you have to move on to the executive summary, the company description. For section, I'm sorry, does anyone have a question? Okay, I'll carry on. So then after the introduction, we're going to move on to section 1, which is the market. It includes the SWOT analysis, the company's new target market, and the company's competitors. Next up, we have section 2, which is the marketing. You're going to be talking here about the promotion channels, the promotional materials, and the overall message that you have. For section 3, you have to talk about the management, which is the entry mode, payments, and pricing. So just divide this amongst your team, and you have to decide who's going to do what. And so can we move on to the next slide?
I believe this is me. So one thing I just wanted to add on from what Malaika was saying is, okay, as we mentioned, every team has to submit a video, but how you divide your work is completely up to you. For example, say somebody has a very busy schedule and they can't actually present. Somebody can work on the slides and 2 of you can present and somebody does the editing, right? So not every single one of you actually have to present in the presentation. However, we highly recommend it because it's a great learning opportunity, but we know that sometimes that's not always possible. So you can figure out different elements of it, but everybody does need to play a part into it. So either presenting, editing, making the slides, etc. So that is something also to keep in mind. And then there's something very important is the time limit. So before I even begin, is our ideal time is 8 minutes. And if you want to go to about 10 or so, that's okay. But anything over 10 will not be graded. So if you go 15, 30 minutes, your video presentation will not be graded and therefore will not even have a chance to be selected for one of the winning presentations, which will have the opportunity to present live to your fellow students, the coaches, possibly some companies rather. So yeah, I just want to mention that. So make sure that you actually stick within your time limit, because otherwise you put in a lot of effort and it doesn't really get you anywhere. So how can you make sure that you stay in the time? Firstly is practice. That's extremely important. Have dry runs, do rehearsals, figure out what is the best way to keep it like flowing, that you don't waste time, that you focus on your key ideas, and that you actually know what you're speaking about, because sometimes if you're not really confident with your content, you can be unsure and you end up saying a lot of extra things that you don't actually need to be saying, and therefore you waste time. So practice makes perfect. That is the good old saying, so stick by it. Then kind of an obvious one is set a timer for 8 minutes, right? So just have your timer, have the stopwatch, and literally don't go over it. Like just stick within that time. And it makes it, how do I say it? It allows you to be more focused on actually what you are trying to get across, especially within your ideas. Because let's say we gave you 30 minutes, it would kind of be hard to like fill in that time, right? And then you would have a lot more thinking to do. So this allows you to really focus on your key ideas. And then we go to removing the parts that it's too long. So if you feel like, say in section 1, there's too much information, too much talking, then you cut it down. So that's also quite an obvious, but definitely something to keep in mind. And this is also where the editing could come in. But again, ideally you want the practice to be run smoothly so that you don't have to edit out sections. And then, as we've mentioned a few times already, is focus on key ideas and key content, because that is basically the ultimate goal and idea of these presentations. So then going on to the next slide is how to make your presentation look professional. Obviously be creative with it, but also keep it simple, because sometimes I have seen some videos where students go very over the top with it, and like with all these editing things, and there's like background music and everything. And while that's nice at times, then sometimes the background music is too loud and I can't actually hear what the person's saying. So those kind of things, just keep in mind you are presenting a professional report basically, right? That you put a lot of hard work in. So make sure that that is your key focus and not the sparkles added in editing or something like that. So just keep those things in mind. So firstly is well, I hope that we've been a good example of this, but as you can see, we've used quite a lot of graphics rather than a lot of text. You don't want to have line by line exactly what you're saying. That is very boring for everybody, and you can get kind of in like a robotic state, and then it's very like, I don't know, it's hard to be enthusiastic, right? So use visuals to help you remember like what you need to say and to represent your ideas. So basically visuals over text. And it also, if you feel like you need a script or something like that, as Malika mentioned, stay away from scripts, but you can have like bullet points if you feel like you need to have something that reminds you of what you actually need to be saying. But ideally, you know your content very well and you don't even need that. Then choose your colors and fonts with purpose, basically. So one thing I quite like thinking of is think of your company challenge, right? What is their sort of theme? What is their brand? How can you implement that? And make sure it's consistent. Don't have one slide that is all rainbow colors and the next that is black and white. And then the next is like all orange and stuff. Unless you have a very clear purpose of that, please don't do that. So keep your theme, stick with it, and you just stay with that throughout. And then is, as I've kind of mentioned, is keep the client representation in mind, right? You are representing your company, well, not your company, but the company that you chose. And therefore, it's really important that you represent them professionally as well. And also that you can be able to represent your ideas professionally and in a clear form. So those are just some key things to keep in mind. And also, as Lisa mentioned, is like the platforms such as Canva, etc. They give very nice templates. So if you're a little bit stuck on where to start, is just go through those and you'll find one that sort of fits, and you can always change it like with the themes and add in your own touches along with it. But at least you have the base, and that does save time. And Canva, honestly, I'll say personally, go with Canva. It's a lifesaver. It's a love-hate relationship, but it's a lifesaver. So I would say if you're not very comfortable, unless you're like a great designer, then maybe stick with Canva. It's, I think, probably the most straightforward. So there's one thing I would just say. So then going on to elements of a presentation, I will start first with the tone. So basically, how do I explain this? Think of this, if someone was speaking in a very monotone, robotic tone, I should have repeated myself, you would probably not listen, right? Your mind would be daydreaming about something else, or you'll be thinking of, I don't know, exams. Maybe don't think of exams, but chocolate. I mean, I think that's where my mind would go, right? You want to be enthusiastic about what you're speaking about. So if I spoke, okay, I can't even do it. I can't even represent it. I don't know, does anybody have a very good robotic voice? I can't do it. But basically, I think you can imagine what I'm trying to say, right? You want to be enthusiastic about what you're saying. You want your tone to come across as, firstly, as we've mentioned, professional, right? And you also want it to be enthusiastic. You want to be lively. You want to get your point across, and a tone is a perfect way to do this. No, Lisa, you with the voice.
Yeah, voice. It's a physical characteristic. So we're talking about your physical, so your pitch, your volume, your clarity. So even if you happened to be in a place that was noisy, the video would still catch what you're saying. So it's just during the presentation, oh, I've mumbled. See, don't mumble. That's what I'm saying. Is to make sure your voice is clear and easy to understand. So to avoid speaking too fast, which I know I have a habit myself of doing. So if you just catch yourself, you're like, okay, I'm talking too quickly here, just to slow down, and then to not murmur. So if you know that maybe your computer, like, what do they call it? The speakers aren't clear, get like headphones or earphones just to make sure that it's very clear, like we can hear everything that you're saying. Then it's to practice speaking slowly again. So if you know you're someone who talks too quickly, you're very excited about anything and everything. It's just to take time to just slow down and speak more slowly to make sure your clarity is like clear, clarity, clear, everything. Then volume. So you don't want to be shouting into your headset, but you don't want to be too quiet whilst you're presenting, because either you're too loud and then it's just like you're really in someone's face, or you're too quiet and you're in no one's face. So you want to find a nice balance between the two so that you have proper use of your voice. Then also to just have if you notice that you're presenting too continuously, take breaks. Don't also feel like you're going to run out of air while talking. So just have a pause and just think to yourself, okay, just take a small pause after making a key point and then continue talking. Yes, I think I pass this to Malaika.
Okay, so camera usage. Camera usage is important when you're going to be making your video. You wouldn't like it if we would be here with our cameras off presenting today's presentation. So that's why camera usage is important. Also, it's important how you present yourself through the camera. So be in a well-lit room. If you're not in a well-lit room, maybe have a lamp in front of you or a light source in front of you so you're visible through the camera. It's not important that you need to have the best camera out there. It's just a camera where you're adequately visible. So that is an important part of the presentation. And we can move on to the next slide.
Perfect. And one thing I just want to mention is with all of these like factors that we actually are presenting in regards to elements of a presentation, this is also where the practice comes in, right? So you can like play around a little bit in your practices, like, okay, do I have a higher pitch? Do I have a lower pitch? Is my tone too dull? Is it too excited or something like that? So you play around with it until you feel it's not a thing of trying to completely alter your personality of how you speak, etc. But it's finding a way that's natural, that like fits with what you're actually trying to do, right? So again, practice makes perfect, and it helps you feel more natural when you're actually doing the presentation. So then, as Malaika was mentioning, is the lighting and background is very important because, right, we all kind of go more with the visuals, right? That's kind of the first thing we see is the visuals. And again, it doesn't have to be the greatest. You don't have to have the most amazing lighting. I always struggle with lighting. It's horrible. But as long as you put in the effort and you can see your face, and also what kind of comes in with this, right, is like if we can't see when you're presenting, and because body language is really important, and especially in a virtual platform, it's really hard to engage with that. So having your camera on and actually presenting with it is really important. And once again, your background, like, because it's something that's professional, right, is kind of just pay attention to that. You don't want like maybe a busy street behind you or something like that, or your family's cooking behind you. I mean, that's very cute and I love that, but not for this situation. So one thing you can also look at is the virtual backgrounds. If Zoom allows it, if you decide on using Zoom, and the others I'm sure will as well. So yeah, so that's just something also to keep in mind, or you can blur your background. And lighting, have a lamp or something like that, or go and sit in the sun or anything along those lines. So again, just play around with it and see what you can do. Lisa, I'll pass it back to you.
Posture. So this is what, I don't know, maybe you've noticed even I keep fixing it just so that you can see me. You don't want to just see like a floating head. So if I was just like all this, just neck, shoulder, chin upwards, no, since it's more professional, even just in general, it's just polite. So when I talk about posture, I mean like to maintain good posture. So you're sitting up straight, maybe even have like your chair has a backrest. Yes. So it's like you're not on your bed or on a wall. If you can try to avoid that, just avoid it. Sit on your dining table chair if you don't have like a table desk setup. The dining tables have chairs. Maybe you have a chair in the kitchen and you can like pull and drag it so you can have a straight up. And so most of the time I would recommend having shoulders upwards to be seen in the video. So with posture so that you're not like slouching or no one can say they can't see you properly, so that you even present like good business etiquette. That's the word. Good business etiquette to people. So you're professional, everyone can see your posture. It even just makes it seem like you're more engaged in what is happening, what you're presenting. Then the fidgeting or excessive hand movement that I have also done. So it's okay. Just, do it below the table or something. So it's just that it can be distracting. So for this, I recommend knowing what you're going on about, what you're presenting, know it well, not a script know it well, but just to know it well. So that you can cut out like excessive hand movement or fidgeting, because it can be distracting and then it can distract everyone about what's going on. Yes, now I pass back to Malaika.
Okay, so incorporating technology in your presentation, that element really adds on to your whole video, and it really just levels up your video. So have like maybe your slides, and you can like add on a lot of graphics and infographics to your slides to make it more interactive, and also maybe a bit of animation here and there, but that's not necessary. So technology is an important part of this whole presentation and in your video making. So yeah, that's all.
Perfect, thank you. Before I go on to questions, Louisa, do you have anything to add to anything that we have said so far? Maybe you want something.
Well, I do want to say is thank you so much for this presentation, girls. It's a really good overview, and also a lot of the points you mentioned are also things I've also noticed with evaluating. One thing I do want to point out, we did discuss the things you need to add in the presentation. One thing you sometimes see with teams is that they give a very extensive company description, which then in the end lead to very little time for the recommendations and the explanation of. Because especially imagine you are presenting for a client, right? The client generally knows about their own company. And it's good to give a company description because there are also other people. However, what the client is looking for is recommendations and arguments for them. So that's the most important part. So make sure you also divide the time based on that. Give a short company description and make sure your recommendations and your arguments are getting the spotlight.
Yep, that is very, very true. And something just going off of that I just sort of remembered is when you're choosing what to put on your slides, is something to keep in mind is like if you go to your like report, your executive summary is a good place to start. Considering it's a good executive summary, it's a very good place to actually get your core ideas. Or if you did summaries for each of your sections, that's also another place just to get like sort of not a head start, but you kind of know what your base is and then you develop it from there. And also just remember, because you have such a short time, again, just stick with your key ideas and your key recommendations, but obviously still develop them as much as you possibly can within that time. And also keep in mind, like let's just say you are one of the teams that are chosen to present live, then you want to know that, how do I say it, what you did in your video presentation or like pre-recorded pre-recorded video presentation, you can easily just like recreate that in the actual like live presentation. So it's not like a whole having to like plan and like come up with a new strategy basically. So do we have any questions at all? Feel free to unmute or put them in the chat if you have any questions. Responding to the chat. the chat, not a the question in the chat. Sorry, my English suddenly just like completely left me. Okay, if you can send an email, just give me 1 second to. Why is it not going to everyone? There we go. To our Academy email. Just one question: have you actually tried submitting it yet? Because I know sometimes if you're a little bit late, okay, you have. Then send it to this email. And if you don't, oh, actually, can you please just send me your team number? You can send it to me privately just so I have a note of it and I can follow up as well. In the meantime, do we have any other questions? No? Okay. Then, Lisa, what would you say one thing that like you wish when you first started like doing presentations and everything like that that you knew?
What do I wish I knew? Practice is not a joking thing. Because, okay, for the life of me, I can't remember whether we had video presentations when I was a student, but just in general, practice is not a joke, because I know sometimes you just get into like the presentation and you get going and you start talking and you realize, oh my God, I'm talking a lot of things, but do they have sense? Like, is what I'm saying important to the presentation? Is it worth taking up this amount of time of the 8 minutes? Then it's also just good in case, say you're doing like a Zoom, if you didn't practice beforehand, if there were any technical difficulties, so say someone dropped out and they were the host and they're the person who was sharing, so then you have to be really quick about like catching up, and like someone else starts to automatically start to share and then you just keep going. So mine would be practice. It's important. It's not something to just joke about. Like, it's serious. Take it serious matters. Yeah, practice 3 times if you have to. Practice till you think, oh my God, this presentation is just, it's haunting my whole life. And then afterwards, don't let it haunt you forever. It's just what I'm saying.
That's a very good point. Thank you so much. And also just going off what you were saying is the fact of like being adaptable, because technology, as great as it isn't perfect. And for myself, I speak, my Wi-Fi cuts out so many times, it's not even funny. So it's always be prepared for those sort of things, discuss them beforehand as a team. Like even before we started with this presentation, I asked Lisa and Malika to have the like the actual slides ready on their side as well if I dropped out, and I made them co-hosts, etc. So you have all those things planned beforehand so that if it does happen, it's not like, oh my gosh, what do we do? And there's like a massive freak out and then you have to redo the whole thing. So be adaptable and also know your other like members' presentation basically, or what they have to say. So if you have to jump in, it's not like kind of you like trying to grasp at straw basically and trying to figure out what to say. You have some basic idea of what you need to be saying and presenting. So that's also something to keep in mind. Louisa, what would you say is some advice for people who are scared of public speaking or presentations?
Yeah, that's something I really struggled with in the beginning. I was extremely shy with presenting, to the point that I actually physically started shaking and stuff. I don't have that anymore because I have done a lot of presentations, and I've also noticed with me, as we said, practice also helps with nervousness. But what also helped me a lot is that it's also normal to be nervous, right? I think nervousness is also a sign that you care about something. So embrace that nervousness, because being nervous also gives you a little bit of adrenaline that helps you perform, right? Excessive nervousness can hinder you, but a little bit of nervousness actually can fuel your excitement and your enthusiasm. And also make sure that if you get nervous, try to have some methods to calm you down before a presentation. I would actively discourage you from practicing like 30 minutes or 15 minutes before a presentation, because that is something, if you are practicing still to last minutes, that are the moments you are going to be stressing. So practice beforehand, and then 50 or 30 minutes. Just take a break, take a coffee, make sure you have everything arranged you have, and just take some time to relax. Some breathing exercises can also be great if you struggle with nervousness. And yeah, it's also something that becomes better with doing it more, right? You are not gonna cure your nervousness in one presentation. I don't know how many presentations and online presentations I have done so far, but I think it has taken like at least 20 times for me to become more comfortable and confident. So yeah, just know. And also, you are now also with coaches. They also have advice for that.
Yes, that's a very good point. So something you can do is when you have your practice runs and like dry runs, etc., is you can ask your coach, if you have one or two coaches, depending, they can also join in and give you advice, etc., because sometimes it also helps having somebody who's slightly on the outside and also has experience, so they can actually like give you some feedback and you know how to improve. Like I remember, I don't think it was actually for the student like presentation, like for what do you guys have to do, but it was something else, and somebody like gave us feedback and it like really improved our presentation, and that like is really helpful. So definitely do ask them for any advice as well, and if they can join in. And also if you are scared of public speaking, or if you're just nervous in general, just remember it's normal. You are human. It is kind of scary. I still, even like after 4 years of being an ex-culture, I still get nervous for presenting and stuff, and I've been doing it for quite a while, so it is natural. And like be kind on yourself with that, and again, just do it as a team. If someone, I even, like, for example, I started with my English, just carry on. Don't stop and like be like, oh my gosh, freak out. Just keep on going. Don't let that hinder you. And be as natural as possible. Obviously, you do have to be like professional because you're presenting like a business report, but also have fun with it and like get a little bit creative and make it an enjoyable experience, not something that you're stressing about and it's like really horrible to do. So just keep those things in mind. That'll definitely help you. Do we have any questions at all about anything? Nothing? Okay, let me see, what is the time? We have a little bit of time actually to go. So does anybody have any advice they'd like to share from leadership team? Louise, I think you have.
Well, I wanted to say, do you guys have any tips yourself from giving presentations in school? Do you guys have any experience about presentation you want to share? Do you think these tips are helpful, or do you actually have something you do differently than we taught? Feel free to turn your camera on or talk or type in the chat.
This is actually maybe good practice. What is practice? Practice. To turn your camera, unmute yourself, etc. It is a good way to like get a little bit of practice in beforehand. Okay, so no, not every single team member has to present. I encourage everybody to actually do it. However, sometimes that's not always possible, but everybody should play a role within actually creating the presentation or editing it or presenting or coming up with ideas, etc. So while everybody doesn't have to physically present and like talk in the final presentation that you record, everybody has to be involved in some way or another. But once again, I do encourage everybody to actually present because it's a good learning opportunity. So yes, that is a very good point. Is one thing I can actually, sorry, I'm responding to the comment about engaging and asking questions. That is very true, especially like say with a pre-recorded presentation you're going to do. It's a bit hard to like obviously ask your audience questions because they are watching afterwards, but one thing you can do is actually have like conversations between yourself as members. So like let's just say, for example, you can almost do it in a interviewee format, so you're not like having to physically present like, okay, this is what we did. You actually ask each other questions that you've pre-planned and you know the answers already, so that it's more of a conversation like, and that can also make it more engaging and more interesting approach rather than just presenting off of slides. But then obviously if you are presenting live, then by all means engaging with the audience is extremely important, if not the most important aspect. Do we have any other comments or any other questions? In the meantime, I am going to launch a poll. Let's see. There we go. Okay. Oh, you know what might help is actually if I tell you the deadlines. You'll get more information about this with an email. But in the meantime, I'll give you a head start so you actually know how much time you have. Let me just pull them up, the exact dates. Give me a second. So you have from today to start up until Sunday, the 26th of November. So you don't have that much time. You do have some time, but you do need to start working on it and start practicing and start getting ideas. And then once everybody submitted, then it'll be graded. Remember, if you go over 10 minutes in your video, it will not be graded. So just please highlight that in your mind. And then if you're chosen, I believe we are choosing 3 of the top teams to present live, then that will be on the 9th of December when you'll be presenting. But that's in the future, so just focus on step 1 of actually submitting it on the 26th. So just take a note of that. But as I said, an email will be sent out. If it hasn't already, I haven't checked my mail, but it should be sent out sometime today. Okay, let me just find the poll again. I've lost it. Okay. Well, I'm happy to see everybody that's voted knows what to do to move forward. And okay, perfect. So I think if there's no other questions, I think we can end for today, unless Lisa, Malika, Louisa, any last tips or advice you want to give our students? No? Okay, perfect.
Well, then, thank you for joining and congratulations on finishing your reports yesterday.
That is very true. That is a very great milestone to have passed. So well done. Okay, perfect. Well, I hope you all have a great weekend and week ahead. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to your coaches. But yeah, otherwise, happy making your video presentations.